Martial World Teyvat Chapter 62, Fantasy Fiction by Azazyel. 4 figures floated above an open expansion of ocean. One side of 2 was the Raiden siblings with Makoto armed with her sword and Ei armed with her naginata. On the other side's 2 figures was Guizhong, who was riding in one of Jake's mechanical, Titan, war dolls that was very heavily modified with Adepti technology and enchanted tools being embedded within it. And lastly the star of the show. Morax, flying in the air with his arms folded over his chest with the top half of his face obscured by his hoodie. And the reason why the Raiden siblings were silent was clear, as floating behind Morax was his infamous god-killing mountain spears. 999 divine spears each one, more than 300 meters long and thicker than most houses. All were bearing the trait of suppressing divinity and darkness within the golden glowing spears that were the pinnacle of the golden path cultivation art. "So are you attacking Morax?" Makoto asked with a calm voice, as she was well and truly ready for violence. And without hesitation, Morax answered calmly. "I am considering how I can break you both and cause the most agony without killing or crippling you both. Losing Inazuma to the abyss when Liyue is your closest neighbor would become a drain on Liyue's own resources." But then Morax's head tilted to the side before saying slowly, "But then again, Jake's mining operations pull materials out of the ether. So technically with him back we would be back on track for infinite resources. So maybe you don't have a use," he finished bluntly. Both lightning goddesses simply gripped their weapons tighter before Guizhong huffed and said through the automaton's voice systems, "Makoto, quit this foolishness. We are here to take Jake back, and if you don't make this difficult, I swear on our friendship and the non-useless goddess association you and Inazuma won't be harmed." Ei's face twitched and Makoto said with wry amusement, "Just because my sister, Furina and some others are totally hopeless doesn't mean we need to make a club. But fine, we can't hide his presence anyway." Morax snorted and said flatly, "Then why did you even start this mess, Makoto? Earning my wrath and enmity for the next few decades if not centuries isn't worth a single food factory." Makoto shrugged and said easily, "That is correct, but I treated Jake and his wife well. He wanted for nothing in my nation even if dash." There was a pause as a flying jade message flew across the ocean at high speed in the form of a fox towards Makoto, but Morax just multiplied gravity by dozens of times in an instant, making everyone freeze as the god snapped the message out of the air out of some form of ultimate pettiness. And then everyone's face froze as Yamiko's frantic voice spoke out hurriedly. "Makoto. Jake got snatched up by someone from the abyss. He got taken through a portal that was made out of abyssal energy just outside of his home." Morax's face could have been carved directly from stone as his face twitched in fury at this happening. "I have no idea where we are going other than north, as my systems are completely messed up and this ship isn't synced to my factories back home in Liyue. I spoke with some annoyance as we were flying north randomly high above the ocean that was supposedly filled with deep-sea horrors. Horrors I wanted nothing to do with, seeing as I didn't have to deal with, seeing as we didn't have to run away from the divines with how I had that special ofuda from Ayato. On that topic of Ayato, I unbuckled myself from my pilot seat and went over to the main room where Ayaka and Guizhong were sitting silently in front of one another. So, Ayaka, I didn't really get to speak to you earlier. I drew off as I wasn't exactly so sure about what to say to the woman who had been slam-dunked into my lap without warning." Ayaka herself gave a soft smile before she shook her and said kindly, "I understand your hesitance, Jake. I hope that positive feelings can blossom between us, but the most important thing is that we find common respect for each other." I nodded in agreement as I gave Kuki Shinobu, who was sitting behind Ayaka, a glance before refocusing on Ayaka as I took Guizhong's hand into my own. "I had every intention of being respectful for you, Ayaka," I said firmly before giving Guizhong a look, who nodded, giving me the go-ahead. "In either case, I will treat this relationship as organically as possible. I just didn't think I would be getting married again after just marrying Guizhong as well." I finished with a wry smile. Then I paused as the ship's scanners made a loud beeping noise. "Second I said quickly and got up and ran towards the front of the ship. With a small pit of fear in my gut, I was scared about there being sea monster or something. But no, After an hour of flight by myself I realized that Ayato had teleported us far further away from Inazuma than I had thought. The only fucking issue now is... what city is that? I deadpanned as my sensors picked up artificial lights over the horizon, which was a strong indication of a city. Ladies, we are minutes away from a city. I called out loudly as I could hear Ayaka and Keqing muttering to one another. And all three ladies came over as we flew ever closer to the city, and once we got closer I was able to use the sensors to take a far-reaching photo, and the moment the picture became clear Keqing and Ayaka said at the same time, "Port Ormuz." My mind flickered and I scowled at realizing we were closer to the southern middle part of Sumeru. Keqing. Ayaka, should we fly overland through Sumeru to get back home? Or just fly around the coast, even if going around the coast will probably take longer? But then a whisper rang out in our ears that made me stiffen. Or Jake, you can just fly through Sumeru with my blessing. We all paused at the fucking scary as hell realization that the Sumeru goddesses in Nahida or Rukkhadevata had just whispered into our minds so blatantly. Alrighty then. Going through Sumeru it is. I said with a dull smile as I just knew we were fucking cooked.